Following Sunday's loss to the team with the worst record in the NBA, that'd be the Nets, Knicks forward Kristaps Porzingis reached his breaking point and voiced his frustration, saying this: "We've been switching things up because at any point of the season, we haven't played like we wanted to. It was like, maybe this will work, maybe this will work." So we're kind of looking for stuff. Coaches, they obviously try to do the best job they can and are giving us as much as they can so we have the information. But we never really got it all together and we're able to execute the way we should have. It's been a lot of confusion. Now, the Knicks have lost 6 of their last games and are currently 15 games under 500. Stephen A., why does Porzingis seem more outspoken than Carmelo Anthony right now?
It makes absolutely no sense to me as far as I'm concerned, and there's no other way for me to put this. Carmelo Anthony, you know, he's just not there. He's going out, he's showing up, he's scoring points or what have you, but he's just not there. And Carmelo Anthony will probably have a problem with me saying this. I don't care. The fact of the matter is that this team is a joke. It's an atrocity. And Phil Jackson is at the core of it because this will be his, he's got like 4 head coaches since he's been here. His record is absolutely awful. They've only won 4 of their last 16 games. They're just awful. They're just an embarrassment. They're disgusting to watch. And they have no rhyme or reason. Phil Jackson has interjected himself, actually taking over practice, trying to incorporate the triangle offense, which clearly shows he has little to no faith in Jeff Hornacek, who, by the way, he had no relationship with other than going up against him in the finals when he was the coach of the Bulls and Hornacek was still playing for the Utah Jazz. I don't know why he hired him in the first place. But the reason why I sit up there and I'll bring up Carmelo Anthony is because you're the franchise player. You're the $122 million man. You certainly had a few things to say when Phil came at you, and even then you were a bit tepid in your responses because you didn't want to cause any controversy. And that seems to be Carmelo's controversy, his situation right now. He doesn't want to stir the pot. He doesn't want to create more headlines. It almost seems like he's in cruise control where he just wants to get through with the season and go into the offseason rather than calling this man out for the troublemaking, inept executive that he has been this season. It's a damn shame that it's been left to a second-year player in Kristaps Porzingis to speak out. I have no problem with his quotes. I have a problem with the fact that it came from him and it did not come from Carmelo Anthony. He is the spokesperson for the New York Knicks when it comes to players on that roster. It should not be left to a European in his second year in the NBA to do this for him. It just shouldn't happen.
But it is, because what this means is that Kristaps Porzingis knows that it's his team. Phil Jackson doesn't seem to know that it's Kristaps Porzingis' team. Jim Dolan doesn't seem to know that it's Kristaps Porzingis' team. But Porzingis looks around and sees an extraordinary talent in Carmelo Anthony and sees that that guy's never going to be the centerpiece of a championship team. And maybe Carmelo didn't have it in him to be that anyway as an overall player. But offensively, in terms of a scorer, Carmelo Anthony was extraordinary, and the Knicks frittered away his prime. And Kristaps Porzingis sees that and goes, that ain't going to happen to me. So it is incumbent upon Porzingis, since no one else will do it, not just Carmelo, but Dolan, the owner, Phil Jackson, the boss, the basketball boss, no one will take this team kicking and screaming into the modern age. The fact that so Porzingis is doing it, I love that. Good for him. It tells you that he not only has the size and the talent to one day be the best player potentially on a championship team, but he has the attitude. He wants it. He's willing to lead vocally in this case, going up against ownership and management. Good for Kristaps Porzingis. And for Phil Jackson, Stephen A., I think this is important. The triangle and everything he's preached throughout his career as a coach has been about, in a way, yes, you use your ego, but you also subjugate it to the greater good of the team. That big goal, winning a championship, the way you do that, the process is by becoming a team, and you have to sometimes set aside personal agendas. And Phil Jackson has to ask himself here about his own ego. Forget about the fact, Stephen A., as you and others have reported, he doesn't really want to put in the work. He has to ask himself about his own ego and his religious adherence to the triangle offense. Ask himself, Phil, ask yourself, are you this way because you truly want to win, Or are you this devoted to the triangle because it's part of your own ego? Because the entire world would tell you it's part of your, it's an extension of your ego. And the best thing to do here is the thing that he's preached to players throughout his career, which is the greater good should supplant the ego. Use the ego in the service of the greater good.
Listen, man,
don't let it crush the greater good.
The thought about Phil Jackson and what he should say, it's irrelevant to this point. The bottom line is this. Kristaps Porzingis, you're absolutely right when you say that he did the right thing. But the bigger, most glaring issue is that he did what Melo should have done. He basically did Melo's job here. Melo's the spokesman for the New York Knicks. He's the franchise player. He's the $122 million man. More importantly, he's the one that Phil Jackson has jabbed at throughout this season. And I think that he's been incredibly tepid in his responses compared to what he needs to be.
They broke his spirit. They messed with him so much this year.
All right,
at his
but then
age,
that's the
given
issue.
The circumstances,
then that's the issue.
He threw up his hands.
And maybe,
then that's the issue.
Maybe he's not the leader there anymore. We shall see. Moving on, don't look now, but the Clippers look like they're in trouble heading into the playoffs. Max is going to tell us in his final take what should happen to them if they don't get out of the first round again. Plus, has Tim Tebow finally found his calling? He got a hit. He made a diving catch in yesterday's spring training game with the Mets. Is Stephen A. ready to admit the man's